afternoon. I am so pleased that I have Darcie Guarderas, I hope I said that right, from Anderson Vacations with me today. And I am so looking forward to chatting with you, Darcie, about some of the wonderful products. And we're going to focus today on Canada.
Thanks for having me, Lisa. It's great to be here, and I'm going to be talking about like my favorite place in the whole entire world, not just Canada, but the north in Canada, which is, I think, probably one of the most exciting places because of all the wide open spaces.
Yes, yes. And whoa, I think I'm going to move that around. And so here we've got exploring the Yukon. That's one option.
So yeah, I put together a few slides for you that we can kind of talk about a bit. And I started with the Yukon, and then I have a few slides on Churchill, and then also on Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories, all northern destinations, all about adventure, soft adventure in most cases. So if people think that they can't handle the cold or they can't handle this heavy duty adventure, it's all kind of soft adventure, and it's great for all ages.
Okay. So this, I think, was one of my very first questions I had for you. I mean, I live in Toronto. My coat gets me by here. I don't know if I have the gear for the North.
That's right. And the good news is that we actually have clothing rentals in all the northern destinations. And that's from the top of your head all the way to the tips of your toes. So we're talking, the lady on the left brought her own crazy fur hat, but we actually provide these lovely, in Canada, we call them toques,
Yes.
beanies kind of thing on your head, and the wonderful heavy mitts, the coats. In many cases, they're actually Canada Goose coats, which are the warmest you can possibly find, with ski pants and even the boots. So I'm from a very cold climate in Canada originally, and I have my very own gear. But when I go up north, I actually forego my own gear and I go with the rentals because they're so fantastic.
Well, they're fantastic because they're warm, and it's one less thing you have to pack.
Exactly, and you don't want to fill your suitcase with a big heavy jacket, so it's really convenient, and sizing is not an issue. Some people say, well, I'm really short, or I have short legs, or whatever. We have access to every single size, from little teeny tiny all the way up to larger sizes as well.
That's incredibly handy. Okay, I've done this once, but never in the winter. I think I would absolutely love dog sledding.
So dog sledding is one of those things where you actually get to completely disconnect from the rest of the world. If you're a dog lover, you can actually spend time. There's no restrictions as to when you walk up to the dogs, and you can cuddle them, and they're so excited to see you. They're the happiest dogs in the entire world. And there's several options. You can actually go up there and do a dog mushing course where you spend several days and you have your own dog team, or you can go up and just do an experience. It can be perhaps a half-hour experience where you're in the sled, or you can actually mush the sled yourself. And I prefer actually to be inside the sled, because once you're in there and the dogs get going, you just get into this almost meditative state with nature, and just feel like you become one. I absolutely love dog sledding. I do it at least twice a year on the snow, and it's fabulous.
Yeah, I would be in there with the snuggle the puppers. I don't know about these two, though. I don't know if I want to snuggle them.
Oh, so this is also in the Yukon, and this is at the Yukon Wildlife Preserve. So I find that people are heading north in Canada always have an expectation of seeing wildlife. And if you're lucky, you can see wildlife in the wild. But to ensure that you do see some, going to the preserve is amazing, because this place is really about rescue and rehabilitation, and it's gigantic. So these animals, many of them found on the side of the road, maybe hit by a car or abandoned, are taken care of until they're able to go back in the wild. If they're not able to do so, they'll actually keep them for their lifetime, and it's wide open, expansive places. So these are actually, most of the photographs you're seeing in this PowerPoint were taken with my cell phone. So
wow,
how close I got to the baby moose and the bighorn sheep. There are Dall sheep, white Arctic foxes. And as you go through this preserve, you can do a guided tour. So not only are you seeing these majestic animals up close, you actually learn all about them. And I think having that commentary really makes a difference as well.
And then here we snowmobiling. Again, you have all the gear available to you should you need to rent it.
Yeah, and you know what? If you're not a speed demon and you don't want to go super fast, there's some wonderful trails. It's all guided, and you go along these trails. And again, these are all my photographs. That's me on the left. On the far right, you can see the overhang of the trees with the snow. It's
Hmm.
very beautiful. And we ride on a lake. You ride on these trails. If you have the need for speed, you do have the opportunity to go a little faster. But then you actually stop, and the gentleman in the middle is pouring us some hot chocolate on the trail. So it's really quite romantic and beautiful and frosty.
I see he's wearing a toque.
He is definitely wearing a toque. That's right.
And then ice fishing.
Oh, again, disconnecting from, your phone. This is on a lake, clearly. We got the chance to dig the holes with an auger, and then you sit
Ooh,
around on little chairs, and so there's a warming shack. You can see the warming shack. So if you do get cold, you can actually go inside the shack, which has a wood burning stove, and it smells wonderful. And you can sit around and do the fishing, and then in one of the experiences that we offer, you actually can they'll create a little fire on the ice. I learned some very amazing life-saving skills while I was out there, and they cooked up this wonderful barbecue right there on the ice with these beautiful blue skies. It was amazing.
I like the idea of the shack. Oh my Lord, the Northern Lights.
Yeah, the Northern Lights. So the Yukon is a great place to see the Northern Lights. It's actually Yellowknife that we're going to talk about in a minute is actually the best place in the world, but the Yukon is also wonderful. Here's the interesting thing is this was taken from my hotel right in town in a place called Whitehorse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not out at a viewing platform where there's no light pollution. I'm actually in town where there is lots of light pollution. So imagine the photographs that you can get when you're out of town at an actual Northern Lights or Aurora Borealis viewing platform. Just spectacular.
And again, no need to travel across the pond. You can do this right here in Canada.
Yeah, exactly. And we're so close. So, and we're just so looking forward to the border opening up so we can get you all up here. This is another wonderful experience in the Yukon. And I just actually came back last week. That was my 5th time in 2 years. That's how much I'm addicted to traveling up to the north. This was a sightseeing flight experience, leaving out of Whitehorse. And in the left picture, you can see that everything's green, the water's turquoise blue, and it's gorgeous. You're flying quite low. And within 10 to 15 minutes, we're actually over top the glaciers. And this particular trip I just returned from last week, my little plane landed on top of Hubbard Glacier, and we actually got out and walked around on top of the glacier, covered in snow. It was probably one of the most exhilarating experiences of my entire life.
No,
Amazing.
that'd be quite the treat. Churchill, this is my favorite. This is my destination. And the
Have you been?
polar bears, the northern lights, the Arctic fox. Oh my gosh, look at this guy frolicking.
And there's 2 seasons to Churchill, and most people think that the only season is the fall, which is, we call it winter actually, because October, November in Churchill is quite cold. It's just like winter in most places. But we have summertime fun there, and we also have wintertime fun. So there are polar bears in the summertime, not quite in the abundance as in the fall, but you do see them. But what's really great about the summertime is a couple of things. One is, first of all, Churchill is not only the polar bear capital of the world, it's also the beluga whale capital of the world. So for photographers, it's blissful. And if you like to get great photographs of wildflowers, there's no better place than Churchill in the summertime.
I think he's having a good time there. And there they are frolicking. Oh my gosh, look at him. He's posing on the rocks.
Yes, and the interesting thing about the summertime is you can see polar bears, like I said, and I was blessed to see those polar bears in the water. But interestingly enough, is that I always thought that the polar bears were always white, white, white. But in the summertime, when there's not a lot of snow around, they're clearly walking around in the rocks and the dust, so they get a little bit dirty. So they're a little bit more gray, and it was really quite interesting because you go into these places with these preconceived ideas, and it's a little bit different than you expect. But it is truly raw nature at its best.
And who's this guy? Who's he posing for?
So I mentioned the beluga whales and that it is the beluga whale capital of the world. These are called the canaries of the sea, and they are majestic, beautiful, beautiful animals. And I do like to tell a quick story when I show this slide. because my experience in Churchill in the summertime was really about the beluga whales. And when I got there, I did an excursion with the belugas in the kayak. Now you can do kayak, zodiac, you can lay on top of a foam mattress, stand up paddle boards, but I chose to do a kayak, and I had a wonderful experience, and I was traveling with a friend. So we kayaked all night, did this big excursion, and my friend wasn't all that much into paddling. So I did most of the paddling, and I used all my strength. So the guide at the end of the excursion asked me if I would like to go again the next morning because they had an opening in the next tour with new guests arriving. So I said, of course I am. So next morning I snuck out of my room and I went to join these new guests. And what I realized was that I'm not the strongest person when it comes to upper body strength. So I was paddling my canoe and I couldn't go very far. So I managed to convince the guide to let me stay where I was, and the rest of the group went off on their own. Well, I sat just by myself, and I had read before I went to Churchill that if you sing to the belugas, they'll come. So with no one around, I decided to start singing my heart out. And sure enough, not only did the belugas come and surface on both sides of my kayak, they actually, one came behind and bumped the back of my kayak, which I had never heard of or experienced before. So it was really quite magical. It's just a beautiful experience.
That is impressive. And there they are.
Yeah, and if you see there, it's either a mom or a dad. The white ones, the larger ones, are a mom or a papa. And then the gray ones are the babies. And during that season, they'll have just had babies. So you will be most likely very lucky to see the babies swimming around with the moms and dads.
Wow. And then here we go.
Now this is the winter. So this would be the fall, and truly it is mystical and magical on the tundra. I do recall waking up in the morning and looking out and seeing exactly that, with the mist coming up, the fog coming up off the tundra. And it is the time to go if you really want to see polar bear and winter wildlife like Arctic foxes or ptarmigan, anything that's white, because they all turn white in the wintertime, so they are great at hiding from their from the bad guys looking for them. But it is just a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Okay, well, I have no plans for next week. Oh, I love this one. He's like being nosy off to the side. He's trying to, check out the tourists.
So yes, we're just as much on display as he is when you're out there. And this is a tundra buggy experience, which is really special because at the back of the tundra where those people are standing, there's actually a grate at the bottom. So if you look down and the bear is underneath you, you can look at him and he can look at you. And this tundra buggy does travel around all day out in the tundra while you're looking for wildlife. And at nighttime, you go to another place. But while you're on this buggy, you can go inside at any point and be warm, which is fantastic. But you do spend a lot of time on the back of the buggy looking for the animals. And at one point, when my husband and I were standing at the back, a bear did come up just like this one, and he crawled underneath that grate. And I don't know what possessed my husband to do this, but he got down on one knee and he exhaled. You could actually see his frozen breath come out, and the polar bear came up and put his nose directly to my husband's nose through the grate.
Wow.
And it was the most magical, spontaneous thing I've ever experienced. And there were people on the back of the buggy with us. And there was a lady actually from Colorado who just burst into tears because it was just so surreal to have a polar bear in the wild that close to us.
Wow. Well, there he is. Look at this guy.
Yeah, I didn't get any of them that close to me, but if you're lucky enough, they can be very curious.
Yes. Now, this is something I absolutely want to do.
And so you should, and so should everyone. So this is part of the same experience. When you're out in the daytime on the tundra buggy, at the end of the day around 4 o'clock, you do head back to the stationary buggies, 2 of which are sleeping carriages, and actually there's 2. One is a dining car and one is a lounge car. So at 4 o'clock when you return, you head to the lounge car and have a nice glass of wine or a beer, and you share your stories from the day with all of your fellow travelers. And then you head from there to the dining car and have incredible local cuisine, from Arctic char to caribou to bison and things like that. But I must mention, during this time with COVID, all the precautions are absolutely being taken care of and is completely safe. The partners that we work with are taking care of all of those things, so there's nothing to worry about. So the sooner that you can get up here and experience it, the better.
And baby.
Yeah, so if you're fortunate, in some cases you can actually see a mama and a baby or a papa and a baby. There are certain experiences in Churchill where the likelihood of this is more likely because we have several different options. One of our partners actually allows you to be on the ground. It's great for photographers. And one of the lodges, we have an eco lodge that is actually very close to a bear's den. So if you're there at the right time, the mums and babies are coming out of the dens.
Yellowknife, and there you go. More of the lights.
Yeah, more than this is the best place in the world. A lot of people think Iceland is the best place to see Northern Lights, but really Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories in Canada is the best place. I was there for 5 days, and 4 out of 5 days we did see the aurora. This was taken by my staff on an aurora trip just last February. Again, we know a lot of these pictures are actually taken with only cell phones. So if you can imagine how wonderful and colorful and beautiful it is. And you do go out to these wonderful platforms where you sit in a heated, we call them, oh my gosh, I can't think of it, like a large tent, a large yurt where it's all heated inside and there's hot chocolate and snacks. And then if the aurora comes out, usually they ring a bell, but you'll know because people start yelling the moment that they come out, and everybody heads outside to see the aurora borealis because it's wonderful. It's great luck for people.
And wow.
Yeah, that's one of our iconic photographs because I think there's nothing better than wide open spaces and to be able to stand out with nature. And this is actually not a winter picture because you can actually see the aurora borealis in the summer as well. And the beautiful part about that is the reflection you will see off the lakes.
And then you can see the city in the background.
Yeah, it's really lovely, quite magical.
Ice roads.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've ever driven on an ice road, but I have, and it's pretty amazing because in some cases you can actually hear the ice cracking under your vehicle as you drive on the ice road. So there was an ice road in the Northwest Territories. There's a place called Inuvik up in the Northwest Territories, and a really amazing little community with a very strong Indigenous flavor. And we really celebrate Indigenous tourism, and we really connect with our Indigenous people, the First Nations of Canada, who are doing an amazing job of telling their own stories. And so we can go to Inuvik, and we actually have an experience there where you can sleep in your own igloo, which
Awesome.
which I was very fortunate to have that experience myself. And I did sleep in an igloo about 3 years ago, which was absolutely amazing. And they do have some wonderful festivals up there, like the Long John Festival in Yellowknife, where they have ice castles, and you can walk inside an ice castle and even have a drink there.
Wow. There they are, out exploring.
Again, snowmobiling. So many of the same things that you can do in the Yukon, you can also do in Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories. One of the things here I don't have a photograph of also, which is a fabulous experience, is fat biking. So you ride bikes on snow with these big fat tires. It's quite the workout, but it gets you very close to nature and wildlife.
That would be fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I had probably my worst wipeout on a bike I've ever had in my life on a fat bike. But the good news is I fell on the snow, so I didn't get hurt at all.
Okay. And here we go, dog sledding again.
Once again, dog sledding experiences here on all different levels. And again, really disconnecting and connecting with nature. And I should have mentioned in the Yukon, there's actually a race there called the Yukon Quest. Now, they don't have it in Yellowknife, they do have it in the Yukon, but this reminded me of it, where you can go up and actually meet with professional dog mushers. And they travel 1,000 miles over a period of about 10 days. And these are quite the characters, these people, to be able to manage to do something like that all by themselves with dogs for about 10 days. Amazing.
And, oops, we missed one. Here we go.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier Indigenous culture, and we all feel it's very important to celebrate our First Nations people because they were the first people in Canada, and they do have an incredible story to tell, whether it's about living on the land and their connection to the land, to the animals, and to their own peoples. They have quite a history, and sharing their arts, their artisan crafts is truly amazing. They are master carvers in many cases, seamstress. They do beautiful beadwork and things like that. So I'm very fascinated by Indigenous culture. And in fact, I'm currently taking a university course called Indigenous Canada to learn all about the past and really become educated on how we can work together and share their stories with our guests.
And then here we have bison.
Yeah, because the Yellowknife is a great destination in the summertime as well. And not only bison, but all kinds of wildlife. And summertime is a great time also to go to the north. It's great because bison was a food source for our Indigenous peoples for thousands and thousands of years. And then, of course, they were depleted, but they are making a comeback now, and you can actually go up and see them living on the plains, and it's really an amazing, interesting thing to see.
And there we go again, the Northern Lights.
Yeah. So the Northern Lights are the most Instagrammed picture in the world. So people are seeing them as a lot more accessible, and that's great because they are. It's one of those things that you can put on your bucket list, but you don't have to wait till a long time from now to go and do it. You just need to make some plans, reach out to Lisa, and we'll work together to put together these amazing soft adventures, and your kids can enjoy them.
I wanted to also bring up the fact that there is some availability now for Canadians to do these tours, because sadly with the border closed, some Americans have had to alter their plans for touring this fall.
That's right. So being in Canada, we're very lucky. I was assuming that you maybe had some clientele in the US as well that might be listening to this. But yeah, within Canada, the best part is that we don't have our international guests coming in, which is bad and good. The good side of it is there's more availability than normal. Churchill, you can book a year in advance.
Right.
Whereas there is some availability for the fall right now, and there's been some great specials.
Right, because it's my understanding that Churchill is just so popular that it's not something you would normally book at a last minute. It's something like you just said, a year in advance.
And for people who would normally travel 1 or 2 trips a year that aren't able to do that this year, maybe have a little bit of money stashed aside, and they're thinking, they want to do something within Canada. There's never been a better time. Don't wait. Do it now where there's less crowds. Have these experiences now. We do have a winter product for this January, February, and March to see the Northern Lights that we do. We're very confident that will be going. Right now, the provinces are starting to open up some of the bubbles. So right now, the Yukon is open to BC and the Northwest Territories, but rumor has it they will be opening up to different provinces very soon.
Okay, well, I want to thank you so much for taking time out, Darcie. It's just like so amazing. I have yet to see the Northern Lights, and it's on my short list, but so is that lodge.
There's so many wonderful things in the world to do, but I think it's really important that we explore our own backyards right now while we can. And another thing is to support local businesses. So I always implore people to support travel agents. We need that support as travel agents, and working with a Canadian company like Anderson Vacations is great. So.
Yes, and then hopefully for 2021, we will be able to welcome the American guests as well.
Absolutely, for sure. So thank you for having me. It was my pleasure to come and join you today, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Darcie.
My pleasure. Bye
Take
now.
care. Bye-bye.